Yves Saint Laurent spent the better part of 28 years here. In this room, he sketched his designs and held his fittings. Various personal belongings lie strewn around the desk, as if he'd just left the room. The effect is intentional. Saint Laurent's former company headquarters has now become a museum. The concept is to leave visitors with an authentic sense of the place.
His chair, his smock. The desk is full of things he kept around all his life that were very dear to him, like the pug figures that stand for his dogs. We wanted it to be more than a museum of fashion, more like a place of remembrance and a historical museum. We're trying to recreate something that doesn't exist anymore, a time when haute couture played a major role, when collections were developed in a very particular way.
On crée des collections haute couture d'une certaine manière.
Over 5,000 dresses, complete with accessories as well as sketches, photos, and films, can be found in the new museum's archive. Yves Saint Laurent kept everything, including his very earliest creations. This dress from 1962 was the very first he made on commission for a client. Museum goers can get up close to the finest gowns. It's haute couture at eye level.
Yves Saint Laurent
was the first designer to archive his clothes. Previously, they used to give them to the models after the fashion shows or sell them straight to the customers. But he kept the original prototypes, so we can exhibit them today. He was also the first designer to stage his fashion shows in other venues, instead of at his couture house, in a hotel, for instance. That made them an event, and they still are today.
In 2002, the first rock star designer took his leave of the fashion world with a grand show. He passed on 6 years later at age 71. In 2014, his partner, both professionally and in private, Pierre Berger, conceived the museum project. To Berger, Yves Saint Laurent was an exceptionally rare talent.
He
left a colossal legacy and has had a huge influence on society. If fashion were about nothing but creating a certain aesthetic and dressing wealthy ladies, it would have no real significance. But fashion is a lot more than that. It has a social dimension.
Yves Saint Laurent took pieces from men's fashion, like the tuxedo or the overall, and transformed them and made them wearable for women. So the women kept their femininity, but they were able to feel equal to men. He latched onto the tendency in the 1960s and held on to it right up until the end of his career.
Among the French designer's favorite models was Kirat Young. The Indian model first took to the catwalk for Yves Saint Laurent in 1976. At first glance, Yves Saint Laurent made a very reserved and shy impression on people. But in smaller, more intimate company, he could be completely different. He told stories and was good at imitating people. In general, he was an incredibly polite, respectful person. In the 13 years I worked for him, he never acted like a star. During fittings, he'd even ask me what I thought. Everyone could have a say. After the Paris Museum, a second Yves Saint Laurent museum is due to open in Marrakesh on October 19th. The fashion designer was born in Algeria and spent a great deal of time in Morocco, an influence that could be spotted in his creations. He originally came from North Africa. He grew up there. That's where he got that feel for color, a completely different feel than what was normal for Paris at the time. He favored warm colors and strong contrasts. Like in India, we also mix orange and pink. He felt quite at home in Marrakesh. It reminded him of his childhood. Pierre Berger will never see the two new museums opened. He passed away on September 8th. But his greatest wish has been granted. He's made Yves Saint Laurent, the artist and visionary, the first fashion designer to have not one but two museums devoted to him.